Part 61. My villain wants to clear his name, but he awakens Cao Thief Simulator. Author, Fangzone Womang. Chapter 601. Suliang and Yuji both frowned. The Tianzai king's words were clearly trying to find an excuse for the 8 kings to deal with Yuji together. If he were to believe this statement, Suliang and Yuji would really become enemies of the whole world. Can be followed immediately. Yuji had a cold look on her face. If you do things alone, why do you need to explain to others? Give you a reason, are you worthy? The words fell. Yuji turned around and left with Suliang and others. The heavenly evil king was left alone, powerless and furious, but unable to do anything to Yuji. Return to the Abyss Council. Suliang and Yuji immediately packed their things and moved to another place. When it was just the two of them, whether it was because of some of Yuji's calculations or because of their safety, the two of them can still be in the same room. But now Suliang has a large family. How is it possible to continue living in just one room? Then, the two immediately found a courtyard mansion and moved in. As for the security issues after being dispersed, this is nothing to worry about. Whether it is Suliang, Yuji, or the other girls, they are all top-notch in strength. Even if those kings want to target them, they may not be able to find a suitable breakthrough. Furthermore, in today's battle, the powerful strength of everyone has left a deep impression on the 8 kings. There are more than 1 or 2 strong men who cannot even deal with themselves. No matter how many subordinates they send, it will all be in vain. Are they not stupid? After settling in their respective rooms, everyone in the Su family, including Yuji, came to Suliang's room at the same time. Sitting next to Suliang, holding Suliang's arm, Qin Benjao smiled, obviously very happy, and swayed her long and beautiful legs. The Abyss is really hospitable. We have just come here, and there are so many people welcoming us. Hearing this, Suliang was speechless. Is there something wrong with your standards of hospitality? Anyway, we are relieved to see that you are fine. Tan Kinja sat on the other side of Suliang, also holding Suliang's arm, ignoring her aunt's murderous gaze. Now I am protected by my mother. Auntie, you can no longer bully me like before. Otherwise, when I get home, I will go to my mother to complain. What can I do? With Yuji here, I'm very safe. Suliang smiled and shook his head. But anyway, Suliang was very moved by the fact that his ladies were worried about him, even risking huge risks to come. And immediately after, Suliang asked the key question, why did you suddenly come to the Abyss? The girls looked at each other, and for a moment, they didn't know how to tell Suliang. They believed the words of Lord Yinghuo and thought that their husband was in danger, so they came here. But now it seems, my husband doesn't seem to be in any danger? No. It should be safe for the time being, but seeing that the other 8 Abyss kings are all hostile to their husband, no matter how you look at it, it shouldn't be safe and sound. Previously, the Lord of Yinghuo suddenly appeared and informed us that you were in danger. Wan Qing explained to Suliang, when we heard the news, we rushed here non-stop. The Lord of Yinghuo? Suliang frowned and thought seriously. Speaking of which, his interactions with the Lord of Yinghuo are actually not that many. All he knew was that the other party was the master of the organization Yinghuo. As for how many people there are in Yinghuo and what they do, what is their purpose in doing various things in the world, Suliang couldn't find any clues at all. Even during the investigation, there were no clues. Suliang couldn't even tell whether they were enemies or friends. This organization is mysterious, but powerful. And the Lord of Yinghuo is the most powerful and mysterious one among them. As you can see, I'm actually quite safe here. Suliang spread his hands helplessly, so, you should be able to leave now, right? Although it is a bit unreasonable to let his ladies leave just after arriving. But no matter what, it is still too dangerous in the abyss. Murderous intentions are hidden and the undercurrent is turbulent. Even Suliang and Yuji have to be careful at all times for fear of overturning the car. Not to mention, what Suliang and Yuji will do next is too uncertain and the risk is too high. Suliang believed in the strength of his ladies, but he absolutely did not want his ladies to take risks with him. Liang is right. It's too dangerous here. Why don't you leave as soon as possible? Yuji followed Suliang's words and said. I can protect him by myself, but now that you are here, you and I will no longer have a world for each other. How can I welcome you? Yuji's words made all the girls frown. She was originally dissatisfied because the Queen of the Abyss brought her husband and put her husband in danger, but now the Queen of the Abyss actually said such a thing? How could they possibly give the Queen of the Abyss a good look? But with Suliang here, they didn't have much to say, they just ignored the Queen of the Abyss. For a moment, the atmosphere was a little cold. And just then, how is that possible? Qin Benjao suddenly spoke and stared at Suliang, aggrieved. Suliang, you actually want to drive me away? Do you not love me anymore? Love will disappear, right? It immediately made the atmosphere lively again. Where are these things? Suliang shook his head and laughed. Of course he knew that his girlfriend did it on purpose. Anyway, you don't have anything to do if you stay here. There are still many things to deal with in this world. I'll be back in a few days. Just go back first and wait for me. Dismissed, no argument allowed. Wan Qing waved her hand directly, cutting off Suliang's retort. Now that we are here, we must watch you carefully. No matter what danger there is, we will be by your side and protect you. Absolutely, absolutely, I will never lose you again. You want us to leave, unless you come with us, Liang. Tan Qinja hugged Suliang tightly and stared at him with the same dissatisfaction. Let us go back and leave you alone in such a dangerous place, Liang. We can't do it. We can't do it at all. All the girls nodded in agreement with Tan Qinja's words. You guys. Suliang sighed helplessly, and then looked at the girls who were looking at him firmly, but smiled happily. How could Suliang not feel the barely concealed concern of his ladies? That being the case, then you can't even fail. Even if it's for my own ladies. Then. Suliang nodded, okay, you just stay. Can be followed immediately. Before the girls could cheer, Suliang changed the subject. However, even if you stay, you must pay attention to safety and be vigilant at all times. Oh, I know. Qin Benjao waved her hands nonchalantly. As long as Suliang is here, he will definitely be able to protect us. I believe in Suliang. Immediately. He even took Suliang's hand and walked out. Let's go, Suliang, go and prepare something delicious for us. It's been a long time since I've eaten something made by Suliang himself. We just fought for a long time and we're so hungry. Soon. The banquet was served. In order to welcome the arrival of the girls, Suliang tried his best to prepare a table full of delicacies. It's an abyss now. We're not safe. It's better not to drink. Suliang smiled and said to the girls. To this. All the girls nodded without objection. He was here to protect his husband, so what if he got drunk first? How could he be so out of control? However, after dinner, everyone sat together again. Wan Qing looked at Yuji, who was sitting beside Suliang, minding her own business, and said with a cold voice, since we are all here, there is no need to worry about the safety of our good disciple. Queen of the Abyss, can you leave? My villain wants to clear his name, but he awakens Cao Thief Simulator. Author, Fangzone Womang. Chapter 602. Hearing this, Suliang and Yuji were both stunned. Master, I think. Suliang wanted to help Yuji explain. From the very beginning, he noticed that Yuji and his ladies seemed to be a bit out of touch. Whether it was because of Yuji's identity or something else, Suliang couldn't just sit back and watch this happen. After all, along the way, Yuji had helped him a lot, and he had absolute trust in Yuji. The relationship between the two is a little subtle. Perhaps. Was it the time when Suliang and Wanqing just met? But before Suliang could say anything, Yuji spoke. Why, after using her, are you going to abandon her now? You humans are so cruel. It has nothing to do with it. Wanqing waved her hand. We all believe in you and believe that you can protect our good disciple, so we let our good disciple come to the abyss with you. But what about you? How did you protect him? What do you think? Yuji was also not to be outdone. Volume 1 # Chapter 534. Is it appropriate for your tea to smell like tea? If we talk about our feelings for Suliang and our protection for Suliang, she is confident that she will not lose to anyone. How could you not have any opinion? Wanqing sneered. Look at the situation now. Even if we have just entered the abyss, we can still feel the danger around our good disciple. If you two make the wrong move, you will be in a situation of no return. Is this how you protect him? Why do you need to control how I behave? Wanqing snorted softly. She was strong to Guao and didn't bother to explain anything to anyone except Suliang. Then, for a while, Yuji and the other girls were actually vaguely at odds with each other. Ahem, everyone is our own people, why bother with internal strife? Suliang was caught between the two parties and said cautiously, how about you all listen to me and calm down? Who is one of her own? Wanqing and Yuji said in unison, obviously not convinced by each other. Then, a party ended unhappy like this. Seeing the girls dispersed, Suliang was stunned on the spot. For a moment, he didn't know what to do. He really didn't expect that Wanqing and Yuji could fight each other, and he was completely unprepared for this. At this moment, Qin Benjiao came to Suliang's side, hugged Suliang's arm, and said with a smile, okay, Suliang, don't worry so much. Sister Wanqing is just too angry. Originally, I entrusted Suliang to Yuji, thinking that Yuji could protect him. But looking at Suliang's current situation, it's obvious that Yuji's promise at the time was not fulfilled very well. They all need to come to protect their husband. If it weren't for the Lord of Yinghuo, they wouldn't have known that their husband was in such danger. He was so close to losing his master again. How could this make Wanqing not angry? As for everyone else, although he didn't speak, he felt a little unhappy in his heart. As for Yuji, Suliang can guarantee that Yuji has done a good enough job. At least, from entering the abyss at the beginning, to the ancient battlefield of the abyss, and now to the abyss parliament, Yuji has been trying her best to protect Suliang and get the results Suliang wants for Suliang. Suliang Zhong was already very grateful to Yuji. As the queen of the abyss, no matter what the reason is, Yuji can achieve the step, and I really can't ask for more from her. Now his situation is indeed dangerous, and he is in danger of overthrowing at every turn. It is not an exaggeration to say that he is in dire straits and is in danger. But so what? Suliang had been prepared for a long time. What he and Yuji did was something that everyone in the world was enemies of. It would be better to say that the current situation was actually much better than what Suliang had imagined. Unfortunately, because of the previous grudges, neither Wanqing, the others, nor Yuji had the chance to think about these matters. We can't let them continue like this. Suliang sighed, we still have to find time to persuade them. The opposition between the two parties is entirely due to some misunderstandings. What Suliang wants to do is to resolve the misunderstanding. There's no rush. Qin Benjiao hugged Suliang's arm and rested her little head on Suliang's arm. We finally met each other. Is this all Suliang wants to tell me? While talking, Qin Benjiao stood up and took Suliang's hand. Let's go, Let's go back to Sulang's room first. Say it. Without waiting for Suliang to respond, she led Suliang towards the room. Boom. The door closed, and Wan Qing and others appeared outside the door. It turned out that Yao still took the lead. Tan Qinjia said with some dissatisfaction. Although his disciple is indeed the first one to be by Liang's side. But I'm not a few days late, okay. Really? Obviously in normal times, I often spend time with Yao. Why don't you know how to take me as your teacher now? I am also very worried as a teacher and miss Liang very much, okay. At this moment, Wan Qing, who was standing in front of everyone, saw Yuji on the other side at a glance. Oh, as a master, you actually covet a disciple. Is this your human master and disciple? Yuji crossed her arms, and her peak became more and more proud. Even Wan Qing could not compare with her for a while. What does this have to do with you? Wan Qing glared at Yuji. You have the nerve to tell me, you are the queen of the abyss, why don't you still follow my good disciple, a human being? Why are you so embarrassed? You act alone, why do you need to talk so much? Yuji also snorted softly. Immediately, everyone broke up unhappy and left each other. In the room, listening to the disappearance of the movement outside, Suliang sighed helplessly. He really didn't want to see such a scene. Yuji doesn't fit in with others at all, what should I do? Certainly. When Yuji and Wan Qing were talking just now, Suliang had already planned to go out and persuade them. But nothing. He can't get out at all. Glancing at his girlfriend who was leaning down and leaning on his chest, Suliang showed a warm smile. Holding Qin Benjao tightly in his arms, Suliang said softly, "Thank you, because of my willfulness, I made you take a lot of risks." What did Suliang say? Qin Benjao smiled and said, "We all know that Suliang decided to come to the abyss because of us. We don't want to persuade Suliang, and we can't help him, but we can still protect Suliang." The words fell. Qin Benjao straightened up and looked at Suliang seriously. As long as Suliang is safe, we will be happy. And if something happens to Suliang, at least, we will be ahead of Suliang. Silly girl, what are you talking about? Suliang patted Qin Benjao's little head and said, "Don't worry, I won't let anything happen to you. I will take you all back. To this end. This time, he must succeed." What about the king of the abyss? What about the whole abyss? For the sake of his wife, no one can stop him. We all believe in Suliang. Qin Benjao nodded obediently and rested her little head on Suliang's chest again. Available immediately. Those slender hands went all the way down, exploring a future that had not been grasped for a long time. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. My villain wants to clear his name, but he awakens Cao Thief Simulator. Author, Fangzone Womang. Chapter 603. Suliang, I haven't seen you for a long time. Qin Benjao raised her head and lightly touched Suliang's cheek. You have to make up for what I lacked during these times. This is what you promised me. Isn't this inappropriate? Suliang felt a little confused. The current situation was not too safe. It was only at night, but it was still daytime. And, when did I promise you? In my heart, Suliang has already agreed. Volume 1 # Chapter 535, Qin Benjao's style in the palace. Qin Benjao looked at Suliang seriously. I know that Suliang will definitely not refuse my request, right? Immediately. Before Suliang agreed, Qin Benjao leaned down and blocked Suliang's mouth. After a while. Well. Qin Benjao snorted and got on her horse. Humph, Suliang will be punished for making us worry so much. After a long time. Suliang and Qin Benjao walked out of the room together. There was a smile on her pretty face, her cheeks were rosy, and her brows were springy. At this moment, Qin Benjao was so happy that she couldn't close her mouth from ear to ear. It's my husband's feeling. Although I'm not satisfied yet, I'll let him go for the time being. As for Suliang, his expression was calm and his eyes were peaceful. Obviously, he fell into the sage state that he was quite familiar with recently. The two of them were walking in the yard. Qin Benjao listened to Suliang's story about his experience in the abyss, which was warm and interesting. But at this moment, a familiar quarrel suddenly came from the front. Chapter 813, Clarifying the Misunderstanding, Suliang's Decision. Master and Yuji are quarreling again. Suliang sighed, he clearly heard the voices of his master and Yuji. It was also mixed with Jingmen's calm voice, and his sister's. What the hell is going on, a big melee? We haven't seen each other for an hour, why are we arguing again? Yuji. Qin Benjao looked at Suliang curiously. Qin Benjao and others did not know the name of the Queen of the Abyss very clearly. That's the Queen of the Abyss. Suliang smiled at his girlfriend, and then rushed in the direction of the argument, let's go and see what's going on. If possible, it's best to mediate it now. Okay. Qin Benjao nodded, non-committal. She also has her own plans in her heart. Certainly. You can't tell your husband yet. After a while, Suliang met his master, sister, Jingmeng, Yuji, and others in a courtyard. And at this moment, led by Wanqing, Jingmeng, and Tan Qinja faced Yuji together, and their momentum was not weak at all. Although it may be inferior in terms of strength, and it is still on someone else's territory. But you can't lose in terms of momentum. She must not lose to this bad woman who put her husband in danger. Gu said, you must not go out. Yuji held her hands in her arms, and the waves were turbulent under the arrogance of the peak. It doesn't matter whether you are dead or alive, but nothing can happen to Liang. Alien is my name. Tan Qinja put her hands on her hips and glared at Yuji, why do you call him that? In the entire Su family, I am the only one who can call him Liang. This is my own privilege, and I will never give it to you. You can scream whatever you want, what does that have to do with you? Yuji glanced at Tan Qinja lightly. At this glance, after hundreds of battles, the blood that was unique to the abyss rushed towards his face, making him feel frightened. No matter in terms of cultivation or aura, the girls are no match for Yuji. So much so, Tan Qinja subconsciously stepped back a little. See this. Wanqing took a step forward and stood in front of Tan Qinja. Although my niece is a little stupid, she still likes to provoke herself, so that she is often bullied by herself. But that's also my niece. Apart from Master and myself, my niece must not be bullied by others. Don't change the subject. Wanqing confronted Yuji unceremoniously, we just want to go out for a while, why don't you allow it? Who do you think you are? Gu is the Queen of the Abyss. This is the Abyss. Yuji looked at Wanqing calmly, but with the cold and arrogant aura of a king. In the Abyss, you should obey Gu's words, otherwise, don't blame Gu for being rude. Oh. Wanqing raised her eyebrows and said, I want to see how you are going to be rude to us. Meng, let's learn the Queen of the Abyss clever tricks together. Don't worry, eldest sister, she is no match for the two of us. Jingmeng said calmly, and slowly drew out the long sword. Seeing them, they were about to fight. See this. Suliang hurriedly stepped forward and stood between the two parties. Ahem, Yuji, master, if you have anything to say, you can't sit down and say it. We are all a family, so why do we need to do anything? Who is her family? Wanqing and Yuji glared at each other at the same time, obviously very dissatisfied. But then, due to Suliang's face, the two of them lost some sense of tit for tat. My teacher just wants to go out to find out the news. She actually wants to stop my teacher. Wan Qing pointed at Yuji and said to Suliang very dissatisfied, "My good disciple, you are the judge. Although she is the queen of the abyss and this is an abyss, why should I listen to her as a teacher? Why does she want Guan to be a teacher?" Without waiting for Suliang to speak, Yuji directly said in a cold voice, "Gu said that this is too dangerous. You may be very strong, but this is an abyss. Even if Gu doesn't take action, there are countless ways to take you down. I don't care about your safety, but when the time comes, Liang will definitely save you. I will never allow him to fall into danger because of your stupidity. Stop looking down on others." Wan Qing's true energy boiled. "You can live in the abyss for so long without any harm, why can't I? Let me show you what Wan Qing relies on to dare to go deep into the abyss." "Master." Suliang frowned, came to his master, and held his master's hand. Shaked his head. Suliang said helplessly, "Master, stop making trouble. It's indeed too dangerous to go out or something. But it's nothing to worry about. I know that Master is strong and has high cultivation level, but now we are being watched by the entire abyss, and there is a hidden danger. It's good to be able to protect ourselves. Master, you have just arrived in the abyss and are not familiar with everything. If you go out hastily, you may be in danger." After hearing this, Wan Qing fell silent. How could she not know this truth? If Suliang had come to persuade her from the beginning, she would not have reacted like this. But Yuji didn't allow anything when she came up. How could Wan Qing be obedient? Snort. With a slight snort, Wan Qing glared at Yuji, unwilling to be outdone. "This time, I am doing it to save my good disciple, and it has nothing to do with you." Each other. Yuji was calm and proud. "If it weren't for Liang, I would definitely let you see the power of the abyss. As expected, I still don't like you. Come on, I just want to see you. Come as you come, are you afraid of you?" Seeing that the two were about to quarrel again, Suliang frowned and finally couldn't help it anymore. "That's enough. Stop the two of them from drinking." Suliang glanced at his master and sighed, "Master, please find Xiao Ji and the others. I have something to say to you." Immediately. Then he turned to look at Yuji. "Yuji, please calm down. Master and the others don't have any ill intentions. Listen to Suliang's words. My villain wants to clear his name, but he awakens Cao Thief Simulator." Author, Fangzone Womang. Chapter 604. Wan Qing and Yuji were silent for a moment and finally took action. Sitting aside, Yuji said nothing, waiting for the arrival of Yingqioj and others. Wan Qing turned around and left to look for Yingqioj and others. After a while, the girls gathered together again, but they all sat together, facing Yuji from a distance. Suliang stood between the two parties, watching the scene and sighing. Yuji is aloof and arrogant, with a royal demeanor, and doesn't bother to explain anything. The same is true for his master and others. In addition, he was a little dissatisfied with Yuji for not protecting Suliang. This way, it's natural that Yuji doesn't fit in with others. Suliang Zhong understood this from the beginning. But that's why he didn't want to see such a scene. Yuji has done enough, guarded for thousands of years, she has paid too much and suffered too many grievances. I think there may be some misunderstanding between you. Suliang got straight to the point. I want to help you explain it, how about it? All the girls were silent in response to Suliang's words. Naturally, they also know that doing this will definitely make their husbands troubled. But I can't help it at all. That queen of the abyss, it's just that she didn't protect her husband well, and she still put on such an arrogant posture. What's this? If you really protect Mr. Lang, if you are more arrogant, we will admit it. But now, Why are you doing this? Master, sister, I know you are worried about me, but Yuji has actually tried her best. Suliang sighed, guarding the border of the abyss for thousands of years. Yuji is actually protecting the living world. I have been dealing with those abyssal creatures for a long time, and there is no one I can trust around me. You can imagine the loneliness. Yuji's aloofness is actually her own protection. Actually, Master, you also know that what Yuji said to you was also for your own good. It's just that the way she said it was inappropriate. After hearing this, Wan Qing bit her lips lightly, and after a while, she sighed, in that case, we won't care about her rude words to us. But before Wan Qing could continue speaking, Suliang spoke first. Since Yuji and I entered the abyss, Yuji taught me the abyss warfare, led me to practice, and gave me all the benefits of adventure. On the way to the Abyss Council, Yuji and I encountered countless interceptions. Thanks to Yuji, we were able to save the day. After coming to the Abyss Council, and relying on Yuji's reputation and strength, I was able to confirm my identity as the Emperor's heir. Slowly recounting all his experiences after coming to the Abyss in the future, Suliang told all the girls about all the efforts Yuji had made. What the two of us are doing is something that everyone in the world is the enemy of. To be able to have the current situation is already very good. After listening to Suliang's words, all the girls fell silent. Really? No matter how you look at it, Yuji actually didn't feel sorry for anyone or owe anyone. Look at the postures of my ladies. Suliang chuckled lightly, Master, since you came to the abyss, you have never given Yuji any trust. How can you let Yuji treat you well? Immediately. Before Wan Qing and others could speak, Suliang looked at Yuji again. I'm sorry for causing you some discomfort. Master and the others are just worried about me. Coming to Yuji, Suliang held Yuji's hand and said softly. No need to apologize to me. Yuji smiled and shook her head. As long as you trust me, that's enough. As for the rest, Yuji doesn't care. Explain all misunderstandings and clarify them. Suliang came to the crowd again and sighed, in the entire abyss, we are the only ones who can trust each other. So, we should be more united, right? As soon as these words came out, all the girls nodded slightly. The looks they looked at each other were a little complicated. Thinking about it carefully, I was indeed wrong. Do you want to apologize to her? When the girls were silent, Qin Benjao suddenly stood up, leading everyone to take this first step. Coming to Yuji, Qin Benjao took Yuji's hand and said with a smile, Sister Yuji, please don't be angry with us, okay? We know we were wrong. I have always known that Sister Yuji will never let anything happen to Suliang, so you should also understand our worries, right? Yuji nodded and smiled lightly. If you think about it carefully, I was actually at fault. I shouldn't have been so rude to you. We won't care. Qin Benjao waved her hands with a smile and took Yuji's hand. We are a family to begin with, right? A family? All the girls were stunned, and then they nodded slowly, stood up, and came to Yuji one after another. They took Yuji's hand, apologized to each other, and said some intimate words. That's right, we are a family, and no one has any less affection for the husband than anyone else. That being the case, what's the point of those misunderstandings and entanglements? Looking at this scene, Qin Benjao laughed proudly from the side. This is called the royal style, even Sister Wan Qing can't compare to her. Therefore, it is most appropriate for him to be the main palace. Ahem, if you guys can figure it out, that would be really great. Suliang also nodded with satisfaction, and then breathed a sigh of relief. Anyway, it's great that the family is finally calming down. Now that everyone has reconciled, why not let's have a party? Suliang came to the girls and suggested with a smile, how about I go make something sumptuous to celebrate? However, Regarding Suliang's words, this time, no one responded at all. I have fought with you several times before, and you are really powerful. Wan Qing took Yu Ji's hand and said, among the people I know, only 11 Hang and Ji Hongchen can compare with you. As for the Lord of Yinghuo, even now, Wan Qing is not quite sure where the upper limit of that mysterious woman's strength is. No, I've just been practicing for a little longer. Yu Ji shook her head and took Wan Qing's hand to walk out. On the other hand, you have only practiced for decades, and you have the strength that is unparalleled in the world. This is already extremely rare. Volume 1 Chapter 536, you guys are getting along well, so you're going to ignore me? Speaking of which, I happen to have some cultivation experience that I want to gain. Why don't we go and share it? Okay, let's go. Wan Qing nodded and followed Yu Ji to Yu Ji's room. I want to go too. Qin Binjiao raised her hands and followed with her master and others. Both Wan Qing and Yu Ji were top-notch beings that were rare at that time. Such people exchange their cultivation experiences, even if their strength is far different and there are many people they don't understand, but as long as they can understand one or two things clearly, it can bring about considerable improvement. How could you pass up such an opportunity? Well, practicing hard is indeed a good thing, but you can also relax a little, right? Suliang followed the girls and said, how about we take a break and I go make some food? However, still no one paid attention to Suliang. It was as if Suliang didn't exist at all. See this? Suliang was completely stunned. Good guy. You reconciled yourself and became amicable, but you just threw me aside. What's going on? What did I do wrong? He watched the girls walk into the room and close the door. Immediately afterwards, there was a lively discussion in the room, and it was obvious that the atmosphere was just right. Suliang was helpless. Is it okay to be left behind? I simply can't figure out what my ladies are thinking. Forget it. Let's go make some desserts and drinks or something. After practicing and communicating for a long time, you can also replenish some energy. This is the thought. Suliang turned around and entered the kitchen and started working. When Suliang walked into the room, there was a lively atmosphere in the room. In just a short period of time, Yu Ji has become one with Qin Binjiao and others, getting along harmoniously, just like a family. It was completely impossible to tell that they were still confronting each other before, and even almost started fighting. My villain wants to clear his name, but he awakens Cao Thief Simulator. Author, Fangzone Womang. Chapter 605. Especially Yu Ji and Wan Qing. The two held hands, chatted and laughed with smiles on their faces, like real sisters. Is there such a big change? How long has it been since then, and we're already playing together? Isn't this a bit outrageous? I always feel like something is wrong. Suliang touched his chin and fell into deep thought. But it is a good thing for Suliang that his ladies and Yu Ji can live in harmony. Suliang finally breathed a sigh of relief. Come on, have something to eat and take a rest. Suliang smiled and said to the girls. Immediately. Then he placed the prepared desserts in front of the girls. Including Yu Ji, all the girls were not polite to Suliang. They picked up the snacks and started eating on their own. However, no one paid any attention to Suliang. Suliang stood aside like a transparent person. This is a bit embarrassing. Why did Yu Ji get along well with her ladies, but she was left out in the cold? This shouldn't be the case. I can't figure it out, I really can't figure it out. The other side. Yu Ji picked up a piece of snack and took a bite. Immediately. With her eyes shining, Yu Ji said in surprise, it's delicious, why is it so delicious? Oh. Wan Qing raised her eyebrows and glanced at Suliang, has he never done it to you before? Although I have made some food, I have never made snacks like this. Yuji nodded. After all, in the abyss, she and Suliang were in danger all the time, so they could just cook for themselves, but for desserts, they really didn't have that idea. To this, Yuji can understand. However, Wan Qing was not happy anymore. Glancing at Suliang again, Wan Qing snorted, "Humph, you are running so hard for him and under so much pressure, and he is not even willing to make you a piece of dessert. Isn't this a little too much?" "That's right." Qin Benjao echoed from the side. "Ahem, if we were in this world, of course we could do it at any time, but in the abyss, we really have no such idea." Suliang explained awkwardly. But Wan Qing and others had no such idea at all. "Oh, did someone speak just now?" Wan Qing pretended to be surprised and looked around. "Maybe it's an auditory hallucination." "Don't worry so much. Let's continue chatting." Seeing Wan Qing's appearance, Yuji almost laughed out loud. This pretense is too careless. It was as if he was deliberately letting him see it. Isn't this a bit inappropriate? After giving Suliang a pitiful look, Yuji decided to follow Wan Qing. Then, Yuji also pretended to be confused. "Well, you must have heard wrong. There should be no invisible creatures in my abyss. I can rest assured that." Wan Qing nodded and looked relieved. "See this?" Suliang was speechless. "Don't you just think I'm redundant and want to let me out? Don't think I can't guess it? Forget it, if you want me to go out, then I'll go out. As long as you can be happy. I have something else to do, so I'll leave first. If you need anything, just call me at any time." Suliang said to the girls. Seeing that no one responded to him, he had to leave temporarily. "Wait until the door closes." All the girls breathed a sigh of relief. "Huh, I almost couldn't hold it back." Tan Kinja let out a long breath. What happened just now really made her almost unable to hold back her laughter. "Can only say. Isn't my aunt a bit too bad? Is it really good to pretend to be so obvious? As the niece who knows her aunt best, how could she not know that her aunt did it on purpose? Just to let Liang see it on purpose, and to make Liang unhappy on purpose." Snort. "For him to come to such a dangerous place alone without us and do such dangerous things makes us extremely worried at home. Let's see if he dares next time." As for the other people, they also had the same thoughts. Otherwise, usually when they see their husband, they can't help but get close to him. How could they deliberately ignore him like today? Of course they knew Suliang's thoughts and intentions. If it weren't for them, how could Suliang come to the abyss without hesitation and bear the burden of the entire world on his shoulders? It's one thing to be understandable, but it's another thing to be unhappy. Are they also very worried about their husband? What if something happens to Suliang because of this? If Suliang is gone, even if they are completely safe, what's the point? They didn't object to Suliang risking his life, but it was okay to take them with him. At least, being with your husband, no matter what the outcome is, you will be happy. Okay, don't worry about your good disciple. How could he not know what we mean? Volume 1 # Chapter 537 I can't offend any thigh. Wan Qing waved her hand, attracting the attention of all the girls. Immediately. Then he looked at Yuji, "Speaking of which, you and my good disciple." After looking Yuji up and down, Wan Qing nodded with satisfaction. Very good. It seemed that the Queen of the Abyss in front of her had only taken a slight advantage at most, but she had not enjoyed it at all. Master's concentration is still very good. As for Wan Qing's question, Yuji just smiled. After all, those in front of me are Suliang's ladies. What can I say as someone who can only take advantage of Suliang? At this moment. However, Qin Benjao came up to Yuji's ear and whispered, "Sister Yuji, don't worry, I will help you." I am the first person to establish a relationship with Sulang. I know exactly what Sulang likes and what he resists. As long as you have my help, Sister Yuji will definitely succeed soon. Hearing this, Yuji raised her eyebrows and looked at Qin Benjio strangely. Why did you? This is wrong. She is Sulyang's girlfriend, and she is also the first person to follow Sulyang. It's okay if you don't exclude yourself, but now you actually want to help yourself? This is really outrageous. Of course I do it for Sulang. Qin Benjio said righteously. In order to make my husband stronger, in order to make my husband safer. I, Qin Benjio, am my best girlfriend. To this, Wan Qing, Tan Kinja, and others all looked away in embarrassment. Among them, some have been helped by Qin Benjio, such as Qin Wanyu, Ying Kaoch, Mu Qingqi and Daoyao. Or, like Qin Benjio, he has helped others. Mu Qingqian planned to bring his master with him. Tan Kinja had also helped his aunt before. Looking at the reactions of the girls, Yuji was a little confused. What is going on with this family? Although she has been paying attention to Sulyang, Yuji doesn't know the people around Sulyang very well. She really didn't expect that the people around Sulyang would be like this. As the first person to follow Sulyang, Qin Benjio was still trying to attract people to Sulyang's side. Look at other people's looks. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. My villain wants to clear his name, but he awakens Cao Thief Simulator. Author, Fangzone Womang. Chapter 606. It seems that you have done something like this more or less. Isn't it too outrageous? But it seems that thanks to this, he will succeed faster? With Qin Benjio's help, Yuji felt that she could speed up the progress of the strategy a lot. This feeling is really complicated. Thought for a moment. Yuji showed a smile. Thank you very much. Anyway, let's finish the guide first. Hey, just leave it to me. Qin Benjio was very confident as she took pictures of the proud height she had grown to. Assisting my husband and so on, I am the best at it. After a long time, the girls opened the door and immediately saw Sulyang practicing in the yard. The 10-day deadline is getting closer and closer. After all, he was in danger before, so Sulyang had to be vigilant at all times. In order to deal with the crisis that might arise at any time, he could not waste too much energy, so he did not practice. But now that all his wives have rushed to his side, and it's generally safe, Sulyang naturally doesn't want to slack off. Even if it only increases a little bit of cultivation and strength. At that time, maybe I can increase my chances of success a little more. Now, all my ladies are in the abyss. No matter what, Sulyang would not allow himself to fail. You must take all your ladies back home. Only. Now that my ladies are ignoring me, I feel very uncomfortable. Although Sulyang probably understood what was going on. But what should I do to make my ladies forgive me? Sulyang sighed, feeling clueless. Looking at the melancholy Sulyang, the girls looked at each other and laughed. Humph, I just want to leave you with an impressive lesson. Let's see if you dare to abandon us and go into danger alone in the future. But they also know that they cannot go too far. If you really make your husband angry, then it will be a bit more gain than loss. Then. Ahem. Wan Qing coughed slightly, opened the door, pulled Yuji, and led the girls out of the room. The weather is quite good now. Speaking of which, I really didn't expect that your abyss would be such a scenery. Before entering the abyss, I actually didn't expect it. Yuji smiled faintly, but what she said was full of information. Before entering the abyss? The girls blinked, keenly aware of the key to Yuji's words. But now is not the time to dwell on this, so the girls don't pay too much attention. It's time to eat. If someone can make something I like to eat, maybe I will be happier. Wan Qing looked in Suliang's direction intentionally or unintentionally, which made it clear. Qin Benjao followed up and said, "That's right. I haven't had the food I like for a long time. If someone hadn't left us behind, we would be like this." Immediately, without waiting for Suliang to speak, Qin Benjao came to Yuji's other side and hugged Yuji's arm. "Sister Yuji, what do you want to eat? Although we may not be able to eat it now, we can still think about it. As long as it's made by him, I like to eat it." Yuji responded with a smile, looking in Suliang's direction also intentionally or unintentionally. Listening to the voices of the women talking, Suliang shook his head and laughed. "Can you make it more obvious? This is obviously a hint to yourself. But good hint. As long as it can make his girlfriends happy and just make some food, Suliang feels that it is already worth it." After all, Suliang himself also understood that this time he had indeed made his ladies too worried. Although he also had his own considerations, it was an indisputable fact that he made his ladies angry. Then, Suliang went straight into the kitchen without saying anything. Less than a moment, there was a crackling sound in the kitchen. Obviously, Suliang was all fired up at this moment and concentrated on cooking. He walked outside the kitchen and took a look inside. All the girls laughed. Well, the plan works. As expected, Lang Jun is willing to do anything as long as it can make us calm down. Lang Jun is the best. Soon, at the table where the women were sitting, Suliang then set up a large table full of delicacies. There are all kinds of dishes, and every one of them is the favorite of all the girls. The number was so large that even the girls were a little surprised. "Come on, let's try my cooking." Suliang placed the tableware in front of everyone and said with a smile. Of course, all the girls can trust their husband's craftsmanship. Everyone was happy to eat. Suliang sat among the girls, listening to them chatting and laughing, but no one paid any attention to him, so he sighed slightly. "Well, it is indeed a bit too hasty to let my ladies calm down after just one meal. It doesn't matter, you can keep working hard." That's when Qin Benjao, who was sitting next to Suliang, suddenly picked up a chopstick of delicious food and handed it in the direction of Suliang. "See this?" Suliang was extremely moved. "Sure enough, Benjao loves me the most. She is indeed my Benjao." Subconsciously, Suliang stretched out his hand to take the delicious food. However, Qin Benjao didn't seem to see Suliang. She directly lifted Suliang's hand and handed it to Yuji. "Come on, Sister Yuji, try this. I like this the most." Yuji took the food into the bowl, tasted it, and nodded, "Well, it tastes really good." And immediately after, Tan Kinja, who was on the other side of Qin Benjao, also repeated her old trick. It seemed like it was for Suliang, but in the end, she stuffed it directly into Yuji's bowl. "You should try this too, it tastes very good." "Well, thank you." Yuji smiled and nodded. For a while, the girls pick up vegetables and feed each other, but the ones they feed are always Qin Benjao and Yuji. After all, when the two of them were feeding Suliang, one on each side, they had the illusion that they were feeding Suliang. Then, when Suliang was about to take it with gratitude, he suddenly turned around and gave it to someone else. "You did this on purpose." Suliang was speechless. Could it be more obvious? My ladies are indeed getting along well. But it was myself who suffered in the end. Isn't this kind of thing too uncomfortable? Sigh. Suliang could only eat by himself. What else can be done? After all, they are all my girlfriends, so I can't really be angry, right? Forget it, as long as my girlfriends can calm down. Suliang no longer cares about the rest. See this. The girls looked at each other and all showed a narrow smile. Time flies. After dinner, the girls naturally gathered together, chatting and laughing, and it was very lively. And among the women, Suliangman sat helplessly beside Qin Benjao, listening to the girls chatting, and couldn't help but sigh in his heart. Sure enough, had you gone too far before? My ladies still haven't paid attention to me. Although it was indeed very warm to listen to his ladies chatting, Suliang always felt a little uneasy. My villain wants to clear his name, but he awakens Cao Thief Simulator. Author, Fangzone Womang. Chapter 607. I don't know what to do at all. My ladies are obviously very harmonious, but why am I so miserable? Suliang fell into deep thought. Soon. The night is getting darker. Wan Qing looked up at the sky, pretending to be surprised. Oh, it's already so late. It seems like it's time to rest. That's true. When you wake up tomorrow, you will have to battle wits and courage with those idiots. You should maintain enough energy. Yuji nodded and stood up. In that case, I'll go and rest first. Yeah, good night, Sister Yuji. Qin Benjao waved her hands to Yuji and said with a smile. After saying goodbye, Qin Benjao also stood up and stretched. I'm so sleepy. I played really hard today. I also want to take a rest. Hear this. Suliang immediately stood up and greeted him with a smile. Let's go, Benjao, let's go rest together. When his girlfriends were together, Suliang couldn't find a breakthrough. That being the case, Suliang decided to come one by one. Start with Benjao first, and after opening a breakthrough, defeat the rest one by one. The plan goes through. However, Qin Benjao seemed not to have heard Suliang's words and turned to look at Tan Kinja. Master, let's go and rest together. I haven't chatted with Master for a long time. I have a lot to say to Master. Okay, let's go. Tan Kinja stood up, took Qin Benjao's hand, and left directly. See this. Suliang froze on the spot, and he didn't even have time to retract his stretched out hand. This is a bit too embarrassing. Benjao actually ignored herself. And immediately after, Wan Qing also stood up and stretched. Well, it's really time to rest. Everyone, see you tomorrow. Immediately. Then he directly pulled Jingmeng aside. See this. Suliang decisively gave up the idea of approaching. That's all for my master, but Jingmeng. Forget it. Although Suliang understood his master's thoughts, he himself had a boyfriend-girlfriend relationship with Jingmeng. But after all, we haven't gotten close to that level yet. It's really inconvenient to have in-depth communication with our master while Jingmeng is around, and to open a breakthrough from our master. It seems. Can we only place our hope on Kaoj and the others? Take it slow and there's always the risk of rejection. That being the case, it's better to take the initiative. Kaoj and the others will definitely not refuse so cruelly, right? Then, Suliang took a step forward, intending to take the initiative to invite. However, waiting for him to speak, Yang Kaoj stood up with Qin Wanyu. Mother, speaking of which, we haven't had a good chat for a long time. That's right. Now we are all a family. Originally, there was no hatred between the two of us. There is no need to always be at odds. With a gentle smile, Qin Wanyu took Yang Kaoj's arm and said, let's go and rest. The two of us have never rested together, right? In fact, it's not that it has never happened before, but every time, there will be Suliang next to the two of them. Seeing the two women leaving, Suliang felt bad. Even the Queen Mother was called out. Not that bad. Don't you just want to reject yourself? Why do you want to do this? It seems. Can we only place our hope on Qing Qian and Yao Yao? Qing Qian and Yao Yao have always been at odds with each other, and Yao Yao is very clingy to her. They shouldn't leave together, right? Subconsciously, Suliang set his sights on Tao Yao Yao. Really? After feeling Suliang's slightly pitiful gaze, Tao Yao Yao immediately wanted to get up and go back with her brother Suliang. Now that the sisters are gone, I can have brother Suliang all to myself. Great. What a great opportunity, how could I let it go? However, before she could speak, Mu Qingqian glanced at her and said lightly, I think Sister Benjao and Wan Qing will know what happened today. As soon as these words came out, Tao Yao Yao froze immediately. One is my eldest sister, and the other is the thickest thigh in the family. There is no one she can afford to offend. Volume 1 # Chapter 538, Can a night attack also crash a car? No matter who she offends, she will be hung up and beaten. Woo, brother Suliang, I'm sorry. Although I really want to have you all to myself, being hung up and beaten by Sister Tou and Wan Qing is really too scary. Absolutely not. Then, Tao Yao Yao could only follow Mu Qingqian and leave aggrievedly. Looking at the empty hall, Suliang was stunned. After all my hard work, in the end, I was the only one left. So, my ladies are already very harmonious, but in the end it is me who suffers. What is going on? Suliang sat back helplessly, leaving Suliang alone and miserable, about to cry without tears. Injured. Late at night. Lying on the bed alone, the feeling of emptiness around him made Suliang quite uncomfortable. How can I make my ladies calm down? This is a very profound question. Even Suliang, who is not afraid of the King of the Abyss or even Ji Hongchen and has a way to deal with it, feels a little helpless at this moment. I can only think of a solution tomorrow. It's better to rest first. Sighing again, Suliang closed his eyes, his consciousness gradually blurring. But at this moment, squeak! The door was suddenly opened, and in the darkness, two beautiful figures quietly walked in. It's already very late now, isn't Liang already asleep? Don't worry, master. I know Suliang best. He will definitely not fall asleep carelessly. These are the voices of my girlfriend and sister? Why are they here? Suliang woke up immediately and turned around, intending to check the situation. However, as soon as I turned my head, my arms were filled with sweet fragrance. That soft, warm body fell directly into Suliang's arms, hugging Suliang tightly. Benjao, sister, why are you here? Suliang hugged Qin Benjao curiously, and then looked at her sister who was diving to the other side. Of course I miss you. Qin Benjao chuckled, unable to tell that she was still ignoring Suliang before. I originally agreed not to ignore Suliang, but I couldn't help it. My husband is by my side, but I can't pay attention to it. I can't do that at all, right? Sorry, we gave you the cold shoulder during the day. Tan Kinja was lying on the other side, her head resting on Suliang's arms. Liang, are you angry with us? Of course not. Speaking of which, it was me who made you worry. Suliang shook his head helplessly. How could he not understand his wife's thoughts? Master, you are completely overthinking it. Let me just tell you, how could Suliang be angry with us? Qin Benjao looked like it was natural, and she almost believed what she said. Then you still want me to come with you? Tan Kinja glared at her apprentice. If you really believed that Liang wouldn't be angry, would you have dragged me with you just after you returned to the room? Judging from the way you were crying anxiously at that time, I'm afraid you were about to burst into tears, right? On the contrary, he is not as good as himself, he has always been very calm. Certainly. Tan Kinja looked calm on the surface, but in fact she was very panicked. If Qin Benjao didn't make this suggestion, she would have put it forward. Of course they believe that their husband will never be angry with them. But I know, but I ignored my husband for a whole day and isolated him everywhere. They will also be a little panicked. While I felt that I must impress Lang Jun, I was also worried that I might have gone too far. My villain wants to clear his name, but he awakens Cao Thief Simulator. Author, Fangzone Womang. Chapter 608. Can only say. They cared about Suliang to the extreme. As for Tan Kinja, Qin Benjao stuck out her tongue, I just miss Sulang. It's been such a long time since I last saw each other. Of course I want to be with Sulang. At least. On this first night, I want to be with Sulang. Certainly. It is not impossible to add a master. Do you think my teacher didn't know that you just dragged a Liang away when you first got here? Tan Kinja sneered, no longer believing her disciple's words. Witnessed with my own eyes that my disciple changed from a simple and cute look to now being black even when he is cut. Tan Kinja was very melancholy. You should be a pure self, why did you become like this? Totally unexpected. What initially stimulated Qin Benjao was her and Suliang. Okay, since Sulang is not angry, let's take a rest quickly. Qin Benjao interrupted what her master wanted to say. Immediately. After a while of rustling. Then a plain white dress was thrown out. Jade hands hugged Suliang, and Qin Benjao moved closer. Sulang, I'm here. Although I had already led my husband to gallop around during the day. But that's just one time, it's not enough at all. My own husband, no matter how long, no matter when, is not enough. Moment. Suliang felt that the warm, soft, and fragrant body tightened up. Smooth and delicate, full of fragrance, the jade legs are slender and smooth, with a tight feeling in the delicate whiteness. He directly landed on Suliang. The night is not long, I don't want to waste it. Qin Benjao kissed Suliang's cheek gently, her eyes as charming as silk, let's seize the time. However, next moment. On the other side, there was another rustling sound, and the same long dress was thrown out. Immediately. A body that was as warm and soft as jade, plump, and filled with sandalwood fragrance, also came to the other side. Plump, silky, and full of elasticity, the peak pressed tightly against Suliang's body, which was really hard to bear. Yao is right. Tan Kinja gently pecked Suliang's other cheek, her brows filled with joy, we haven't seen each other for a long time. Even as a sister, I miss Liang very much. Tonight, if you cannot satisfy yourself, you must not let Liang go. Hiss. Suliang immediately took a breath of air, seeing the master-disciple combination after a long absence. It's really a bit hard to bear. Well, they are all my wives, so if it's hard to resist, I won't. Then. Suliang took action immediately. But at this moment. Squeak. The door was suddenly opened, and immediately after, the same two beautiful figures walked in. Be careful, don't let Sister Wan Qing find out, otherwise, we will be doomed. Yang Kao's voice sounded in the room. Don't worry, Sister Wan Qing will definitely not notice. It's better not to let others take the lead. Qin Wanyu's voice appeared immediately. Immediately. Before Suliang and the others could react, Yang Kao and Qin Wanyu had already arrived at the bedside. Lang Jun, we are here. Yang Kao laughed and was very happy, and he was about to throw himself on the bed. The other sisters all unanimously ignored the husband. Didn't you expect that the two of us would take this opportunity to come to find the husband? Volume 1 Chapter 539 You didn't keep your promise last night. Although there was Qin Wanyu beside him. But this is the first day I meet my husband. It's great to be able to spend this day occupying my husband, isn't it? However, before she could take action, she saw three pairs of eyes looking at her side by side on the bed. Bing, Benjao, Sister Kinja. Yang Kaoj was confused. She never expected that since she had arrived early enough, someone would beat her to it. And, except for Qin Wanyu, I didn't tell anyone. How could Benjio and Sister Kinja know this? Ahem, Sister Ying, you're here too. Qin Benjio said hello awkwardly. She also didn't expect that her sister would also go with her. Could it be? Is this the legendary sisterhood? It's really uncomfortable. With Master, it's acceptable, but with Sister Ying and the Queen Mother, it's simply not enough. Sure enough, was someone preempted you? Qin Wanyu sighed and smiled softly at Tan Kinja. Sister Kinja, you are here too. Well, what a coincidence. Tan Kinja nodded inexplicably. Although she had expected the current situation, when it actually happened, she was still a little embarrassed. Then, in the room, the 5 people looked at each other with 10 eyes, and for a moment, the atmosphere became tense. Why don't we come together? Qin Benjio suggested in a low voice. Although I came early, I can't drive my sister and the 2 away, right? Yeah, let's do it together. Ying Kaoj and Qin Wanyu nodded immediately and came directly to Suliang without saying anything. Surrounded by the girls, Suliang looked incomprehensible. Don't say it. For 5 people, it is indeed a bit crowded. But it's not over yet. Immediately afterwards, the door was opened again, and a little head squeezed in. Brother Suliang, are you there? Yao Yao is here to find you. Brother Suliang is not still angry with me, right? I don't want to neglect Brother Suliang. However, Sister Wan Qing and the eldest sister are staring at me, and I am also very scared. Well, everything was the idea of Sister Wan Qing and the eldest sister. She is just a poor little girl who dare not resist. Brother Suliang will not be angry, right? As Tao Yao Yao spoke, she followed Mu Qingqian and walked towards Suliang. Then, at a glance, she saw the neatly arranged 5 people on the bed, and the cold gaze on the elder sister's head. Oh ho, it's over. Tao Yao Yao turned around and ran away without saying a word. I have something else to do, so I'll leave first. However, just turned around. Then she found that Wan Qing was already standing behind her, with a meaningful smile on her face. Completely finished. Tao Yao Yao's eyes lost their luster. This night, bad women came to comfort their husband late at night, and then bumped into each other. The next morning, Yuji got up early and came to the yard, waiting for Suliang's breakfast. It's not like she has never tasted Suliang's cuisine before. After eating it once, she will never forget the taste. She will never get tired of it in her lifetime, okay? Certainly. The most important thing is that this is something he made, and as long as it is made by him, then everything is good. And the reason why I woke up so early. In addition to being vigilant and protecting Suliang's safety, Yuji also wants to be the first to see Suliang. Let yesterday's things stay yesterday. Even if it is a neglect, it cannot be overdone. This was something Yuji, Wan Qing, and others had discussed long ago. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. My villain wants to clear his name, but he awakens Cao Thief Simulator. Author, Fangzone Womang. Chapter 609. However, after sitting in the yard for a long time, watching the sun getting higher and higher, Suliang didn't appear. It shouldn't be. Logically speaking, with Suliang's current strength, it would be okay even if he didn't rest. Not to mention, it was already so late, which was not in line with Suliang's usual habits. Haven't woken up yet? Why not go take a look? What Qin Benjio taught yesterday suddenly appeared in Yuji's mind. It would be nice to give Suliang a good morning kiss when you wake up early in the morning, right? The majestic queen of the abyss, no matter who looks at her, is a majestic, domineering, cold-blooded and ruthless existence. Who would have thought that there is such a tender side? What is this called? Yes, this is called contrast. Although she didn't quite understand the terms Qin Benjao said, Yuji felt that what Qin Benjao said was quite right. Then, standing up, Yuji planned to sneak into Suliang's room and wait for him to wake up. But at this moment, squeak! Suliang was suddenly opened. Have you woken up? Oops, what on earth was I struggling with just now? I was a step too late. What a pity. If I had known better, I would have gone earlier. It seems that we can only wait for the opportunity tomorrow. How about waking up earlier tomorrow? Yuji thinks this is possible. However, the next moment, a beautiful figure appeared in Suliang's room. It's Wanqing. What are you? Yuji looked at Wanqing in confusion. Why did she appear from Suliang's room? Didn't you agree that no one would pay attention to him yesterday? Is it possible? For some reason, Yuji had already guessed the reason. The moment I saw Yuji. Ahem. With a slight cough, Wanqing went back to her room without saying a word. So awkward. Forget about the car crash last night, Yuji actually saw it. Obviously, I made an agreement with Yuji yesterday that no one would talk to my master. Slipping away. The other side. Before Yuji could recover, two more beautiful figures walked out of Suliang's room. Those are, Qin Benjao and Tan Kinja? Yuji raised her eyebrows and was a little surprised. It turns out that Wanqing was not the only one who failed to abide by the agreement. No wonder he didn't wake up today. 3 people, well, it was indeed difficult to deal with. But behind Qin Benjao and Tan Kinja, 4 people, Ying Kaoch, Qin Wanyu, Tao Yao Yao, and Mu Qingqian, filed out, talking and laughing. This time, Yuji was completely stunned. How many people are there? No one agreed to pay attention to Suliang. Doesn't this mean that no one except himself has kept the agreement? Oh, by the way, there is another scary dream coming. But a frightening dream is not comforting at all. And can Suliang really bear it? He won't have left this world, right? Subconsciously, Yuji felt a little panicked and wanted to go check on Suliang's condition immediately. Yuji stepped forward and wanted to ask carefully what happened. However, seeing Yuji approaching, the girls coughed lightly and dispersed. I remembered that I still had some confiscated clothes, so I went to collect them. Master, let's go together. Really, Benjao, how could you do this? Come on, sister, help you. In just a blink of an eye, the girls dispersed, leaving Yuji alone, standing there with a confused look on her face. Are they all running so fast? Yuji was completely confused. What on earth is going on with this family? Forget it, let's go check on Suliang's situation. Compared to the other girls, Yuji was more worried about Suliang. Before Yuji walked into the room, she then saw Suliang walk out of the room with a calm and indifferent look on his face. The moment I saw Yuji, Suliang showed a smile that could see through the world of mortals. Are you here? See this. Yuji fell silent. Oops, what should he do if he sees through the world before he succeeds? You take a rest first, and I'll make you some delicious food. Suliang smiled lightly. Since it's morning, how about eating something lighter? Can only say. The collision of the girls did make Suliang's sage mode last a little longer. See this. Yuji didn't care about that much anymore, she just pulled Suliang and walked into the room. Push Suliang onto the bed. Next moment, Suliang panicked. What do you want to do? No more, I really have no more. Even the Hunyuan Chunyang Taoist body cannot withstand this. God knows what happened last night. It really didn't stop for a moment, until dawn. Okay. Be honest and get some rest. Yuji glared at Suliang. Really, they don't know the importance, don't you know it too? There are only a few days left, don't you know how to take care of yourself? Really? I haven't done anything yet, okay, what if something goes wrong? And if you go too far now, what if your strength is affected when you get to the ancestral emperor's palace? I don't think so. Suliang responded cautiously. How could it not be the case? Yuji glared at Suliang again, and the firmness in her words was unquestionable. Listen to me, you have a good rest here today, don't do anything else, and no one can touch you again. I'm going to make you some food. After you eat, have a good sleep and regain your energy. Ahem, I think. I don't want to feel, I want to feel. Yuji pressed Suliang forcefully, be good, be honest. Oh. Suliang nodded honestly. Left for less than a moment. Yuji returned again, already holding the prepared things in her hands. Come, eat something and then rest. After helping Suliang up, Yuji took a spoonful, felt the temperature for a while, and then put it to Suliang's mouth after she felt it was suitable. Ah! Suliang honestly opened his mouth and ate in, feeling that the taste was surprisingly good. Looking at Yuji who was busy in front of him, Suliang looked a little strange. The undoubted majesty that Yuji showed just now is somewhat suitable for the identity of the Queen of the Abyss. But it is full of care, and in addition to majesty, it also feels gentle and careful. Is it exciting? Time passed, and in a blink of an eye, the 10-day deadline had arrived. My villain wants to clear his name, but he awakens Cao Thief Simulator. Author, Fangzone Womeng. Chapter 610. On this day, the ancestral palace opened and the final test came. Early in the morning, everyone in the Su family gathered together. When the ancestral palace is opened and all the kings gather, there must be many dangers. What Suliang wants to do is to become emperor in the abyss. Yuji explained to the girls, as for this matter, the other idiots will definitely not allow it, and will definitely try every means to stop him. Whether it's inside the ancestral emperor's palace or outside the ancestral emperor's palace, everything is extremely dangerous. In other words, those kings will send people to take action outside the ancestral palace. Wan Qing nodded, understanding in her heart. In fact, the moment she met Suliang, she already understood Suliang's situation and thought of what might happen today. During the 10 days of waiting, the kings of the abyss had tried to take action against Suliang more than once. Their determination to stop Suliang was so firm that it was terrifying. And since there was no success within these 10 days, of course they would not miss this last opportunity in the ancestral palace. They might get even crazier. In this case, we have to protect Liang. Tan Qinja frowned and said, no matter what is in the ancestral emperor's palace, it is still full of dangers. The road to becoming emperor must be taken by Liang himself. And this road will definitely not be easy. As soon as he finished speaking, Qin Binjao on the side took over Tan Qinja's words, so, until the last moment, we can't let Suliang take action and waste our energy. It shouldn't happen. Suliang said after considering it. But before he finished speaking, Yuji interrupted him directly, the more strength you have, the more hope you have of victory. It is still necessary to conserve your physical strength. So, let us handle all the dangers before that. Tao Yaoyao immediately stood up, put her hands on her hips, and said proudly, Brother Suliang, don't worry, we will definitely protect you. Protecting Brother Suliang and so on, that's great, isn't it? After all, my brother Suliang is so powerful, it is rare to have an opportunity to protect him. See this? Suliang showed a gentle smile, okay, then I'll leave my safety to Yao Yao. Yeah, don't worry. Tao Yao Yao patted her chest, almost flying with pride under the turbulent waves. In this case, what we have to do is to end the disaster of Abyss and fully assist our good disciple Abyss in becoming emperor. Wan Qing concluded, stood up, let's go. Suliang came to the abyss not only for the present world, but also for them. And they want to end the scourge of the abyss, not only for the sake of the present world, but also for their husbands. So, you won't lose, you won't lose. Outside the Zhuang Palace, a majestic and vast hall stands on the land of the abyss. It's just a big hall, but it has the potential to tower into the clouds, majestic and spectacular. The entire ancestral palace seemed to have stepped out of the long river of time, with an endless ancient aura and exuding heavy pressure. The vague inscriptions engraved on it are vaguely consistent with the Tao, making the Zhuang Palace more powerful and mysterious, exuding a faint shimmer, making people intimidated. And at this moment, the ancestral palace has not yet reached the opening time, but it is already crowded with people outside. It's not just those kings of the abyss. Even their men, they brought a lot with them. Certainly. This was not to keep Suliang out. After all, he was the heir to the emperor that they personally recognized, but in the end, they were surrounded and killed outside the ancestral palace. They could not do this kind of thing no matter what. Not to mention, with Yuji's support, Yuji's unique transcendent strength, and her equally powerful manpower. Volume 1 Chapter 540 The majesty of the king cannot be insulted. Plus the help of those women from this world. With Suliang's own strength, it was simply unrealistic for them to surround and kill Suliang here. But even so, he will never be allowed to succeed. The evil king said in a deep voice. Compared to others, he was the most hostile to Suliang and Yuji and took the most shots. If Suliang is really allowed to become emperor, I'm afraid he will be the first to die. Not to mention, that was the honor and power of being the emperor of the abyss. How could he not covet it? Everyone, have you made arrangements? The other king had a faint smile on his face. You won't be willing to watch him, a human being, take away our position as the emperor of the abyss, right? To this, all the kings just snorted and said nothing. But this attitude is enough to explain the problem. In order to deal with Suliang, they had indeed made the final and craziest preparations. And just then, in the sky, several streaks of light flashed across and flew towards them. Just in the blink of an eye, the light fell to the ground, revealing its true appearance. It was Suliang and others. So, are you all here? Suliang faced the kings with a faint smile. It is truly an honor for me to have you all witness my journey. All kinds of attacks, murders, and conspiracies were all carried out by these people. If it weren't for these abyss kings, Suliang would never have had such a difficult time these days. It is also our honor to witness the birth of a new emperor. The king who had always remained neutral responded with a smile. Humph, it's hard to say whether a king is born or an heir falls. However, the evil king snorted coldly and looked unkind. I've already broken up with each other, and now I don't mind offending him a little more. I really disappoint you. Suliang shook his head. This time, I will definitely succeed. The words were full of determination. But at this moment, a shocking murderous intent suddenly appeared from behind Suliang. Immediately afterwards, a flash of cold light passed by, and a dagger suddenly appeared behind Suliang, heading towards Suliang's heart. There was a faint cold light on the dagger, and it was obviously poisoned. However, before the dagger could approach Suliang, then a gust of wind roared towards him, and the man holding the dagger was knocked away with one palm. Immediately afterwards, with a flash of sword light, Qin Benjiao slowly sheathed her sword. The assassin had already died under Qin Benjiao's sword. Look at the assassin again. This man was actually only wearing ordinary clothes, his appearance was completely ruined, and all the characteristics that could identify his identity had disappeared. It was impossible to identify him. Can you please explain what is going on? Yuji's beautiful eyes gradually narrowed. You dare to assassinate the emperor's heir outside the ancestral palace. You are so brave. However, regarding Yuji's question. However, several emperors just spread their hands innocently. These are not our people. Maybe someone sneaked in. After all, I want a human to be the emperor of the abyss. Many people cannot accept this. Nonsense. There are your people around here. If you hadn't signaled, how could he have come in? However, even if they know this, even if Suliang and others have evidence, they can't do anything to a few kings. It was just a plan before entering the ancestral palace. Suliang and others were already prepared. Taking Yuji's hand, Suliang smiled lightly and said, "No need to say more, how could these kings lie to us?" As soon as these words came out, all the kings were surprised. When did Suliang become willing to speak for them? Although they had only met Suliang a few times, they thought they understood Suliang after several confrontations. This young man is very sober and knows who the enemy is, and he will never show mercy to his enemies. If this were not the case, even with Yuji's protection, Suliang would never be able to escape their plots one after another. However, such Suliang, at this moment, spoke for them. It's hard not to overthink it. Just as they thought,